You ever come home from a long shift and find a stranger's car parked inside your own garage? Yeah, that actually happened to me. And not just any car. A pearl-white BMW worth more than my annual salary. The owner, our HOA treasurer, better known around the neighborhood as the woman who fined a veteran for having an American flag that was too faded. I didn't scream. I didn't threaten. I locked the door, kept the keys, and went on a 2-week vacation. 2 weeks later, she was crying into my voicemail while the police towed her luxury SUV out of my garage in front of half the neighborhood. I'm Jake, and if you like real stories about ordinary people standing up to everyday tyrants, the boss, the landlord, the HOA dictator, hit that subscribe button right now. I post new stories every week, all based on true events, about how to win against the people who think rules only apply to others. All right, let's rewind to the night it all started. I came home from a 12-hour electrical shift, boots heavy with dust, shoulders stiff from lifting conduit all day, and there it was, a pearl-white BMW SUV sitting dead center in my garage. At first, I thought I'd pulled into the wrong driveway. Then I saw my grandfather's oak workbench shoved against the back wall, my rolling toolbox pushed sideways, and that familiar scent of sawdust fighting with the sharp tang of high-end perfume. This SUV's lights blinked once, smug as a smirk. Then I heard it, the sharp click of heels on concrete. Out she came, Brenda Whitfield, our HOA treasurer, clipboard in one hand, tablet in the other, hair perfect even in the humidity. "Oh, Jake," she said, like she was doing me a favor. "I needed temporary use of your garage. Emergency parking clause." "Emergency parking clause?" I repeated. She nodded, the way people do when they're used to everyone agreeing with them. "My driveway's being resealed tomorrow. HOA allows temporary use of available spaces for maintenance emergencies. Community cooperation, you know." I pulled my phone out and opened the HOA bylaws PDF. "That's funny. I don't see any emergency parking rule in here." She smiled thinly. "I'm reviewing updates. Consider this a pilot program." That smile, half charity, half threat, snapped something inside me, but I kept my tone calm. "So, to be clear, you've parked your vehicle in my private garage without permission, using a rule that doesn't exist. You can't record me without consent," she snapped when she noticed my phone camera pointed her way. "Actually," I said, "we're standing on my property. One-party consent state. I can record all I want." Her eyes narrowed. "My husband works in city planning. I'd be careful if I were you." "Good thing you're not," I said, and hit the button on my garage remote. The heavy door started lowering. Her SUV was still inside. "Wait, what are you doing?" she barked. "Testing my own emergency procedure," I said. "It's called private property preservation." The door closed with a satisfying mechanical rumble, sealing that BMW and Brenda's arrogance inside. To understand why that moment mattered, you have to know how hard I worked for that garage. I'm 34, single dad, electrician for the county. I spent 6 years saving every overtime penny, eating ramen for dinner, and patching old boots with duct tape to afford this house. It's nothing fancy, 3 bedrooms, small yard, but the garage, that's my sanctuary. The smell of copper wire and sawdust. My grandfather's workbench. The space where I build treehouse parts for my 8-year-old daughter, Emma. Every weekend she's here, she helps me drill holes and sandboards. She calls it our adventure lab. So, when someone parked their BMW on top of that sacred space, it wasn't just rude, it was personal. Brenda, though, doesn't see things like that. To her, this neighborhood is her kingdom. She's 52, always dressed like she's late for a charity brunch. And she treats HOA rules like commandments. Within months of her election as treasurer, she fined Mrs. Chen for wind chimes, inconsistent with community aesthetic, cited Tom Rodriguez for parking his work truck in his driveway, commercial vehicle violation, and made the rest of us terrified to leave trash cans out for an extra hour. Nobody confronted her because confrontation just meant more fines. Until now. When I went inside that night, still smelling of sawdust and sweat, there was an envelope taped to my door. Violation notice, garage door left open overnight. Fine, $75, escalating to $200. Attached was a handwritten note. Maybe next time you'll be more cooperative. The irony nearly made me laugh. She parks in my garage, then fines me for it being open. That's when I decided this wasn't just about a car. It was about drawing a line. The next morning, during my lunch break, I called my old college roommate, Derek, a real estate attorney with a sense of humor as sharp as his suits. "Let me get this straight," he said, laughing into the phone. "She parked in your garage, then fined you because your garage was open." "Exactly. She just handed you a harassment case on a silver platter. Screenshot everything, take photos, and whatever you do, don't lose your temper." "Already recording," I said. He chuckled. "Good. Most HOAs operate on bluffing. They sound official, but their power stops where your deed begins. Check your property documents. If that garage is fully on your lot, she's trespassing. And if you really want to have fun, charge her storage fees." I liked that idea more than I should have. After work, I went to the county clerk's office. The smell of paper, toner, and government coffee hit me like nostalgia. The clerk helped me pull the HOA's founding documents. There it was, no mention of any emergency parking clause. In fact, the insurance policy explicitly said the HOA wasn't liable for board members' personal actions. Translation: if Brenda caused damages, she was personally responsible. When I got home, her BMW was still sitting there like an uninvited guest who refused to leave. I decided to make her stay expensive. I printed a notice: unauthorized vehicle storage fee, $25 per day, payable upon removal. Then I taped it neatly to her windshield. At exactly 7:42 p.m., Brenda stormed across my lawn, waving the paper like it was evidence in a courtroom. "This is harassment," she shouted. "So is parking in someone else's garage," I replied. "You're making a big mistake." "Maybe, but at least it's my mistake. In my garage, on my property." She glared so hard I thought her mascara might crack. Then she stomped off, heels stabbing the concrete like a metronome of rage. That night, I watched security footage of her returning after dark with a flashlight, trying to peek through the side window of my garage. She even tried the handle once, muttered something I couldn't hear, and walked away. I saved the footage and emailed it to myself. Insurance in case this escalated, which I had a feeling it would. By Friday, she'd sent me 3 more emails, each more dramatic than the last. "Remove my car immediately or face legal action. You are in violation of community cooperation bylaws. My husband will have you cited for obstruction." I ignored all 3 and focused on my weekend project, finishing Emma's treehouse. Saturday morning. While tightening bolts on the platform, my neighbor Tom wandered over. "Former Marine, current mechanic, and the unofficial neighborhood bodyguard. Heard you trapped the Queen Bee's car," he said. Grinning, "Word travels fast. She's been ranting in the Facebook group. Called you unneighborly and aggressive. Half the comments are cheering you on. That was good to know. Maybe people were finally tired of her tyranny. By evening, I had a new padlock installed on the garage door. Industrial grade, tamper-proof. If Brenda wanted her BMW back, she'd need paperwork and patience. The next morning, she arrived at 6:30 a.m., still in her robe, shouting that she was calling the police. "Great," I said. "They'll tell you exactly what I told you. Property lines matter." She didn't believe me. Of course, but when Officer Martinez arrived, a calm, middle-aged cop who clearly knew the neighborhood drama, he took one look at my deed, one look at the car, and said, "Ma'am, this garage is entirely on his property. If he wants to lock it, he can. You need to remove your vehicle legally." Her face went through 5 emotions in 3 seconds: shock, anger, disbelief, denial, and then that tight smile again. "I'll speak with my attorney," she muttered, then marched back to her McMansion like it was a retreat from battle. After the patrol car left, Officer Martinez turned to me. "You've got everything documented, right?" "Every second," I said, tapping my phone. He nodded. "Good, keep it that way. People like her. They escalate before they back down." He wasn't wrong. That afternoon, my email pinged again. Brenda demanding immediate access to retrieve personal staging materials. I responded with a single line. All access must be scheduled through law enforcement presence for documentation. She didn't reply. Instead, she sent another HOA violation notice, this one claiming I'd altered garage usage contrary to community standards. Fine. $800. I laughed out loud. Even my dog looked confused. This wasn't an HOA issue anymore. It was an obsession. So that evening, while Brenda paced her front yard pretending to talk on the phone, I packed up my truck. Tent, cooler, fishing rods, and Emma's backpack, ready for 2 weeks off-grid. Before bed, I sent Brenda one final message. Out of town for 2 weeks. Any communication regarding your vehicle can be directed to my attorney. Have a pleasant day. The next morning, sunlight poured through the kitchen blinds. Emma skipped into the room, wearing her tiny camping hat. Are we really going camping, Daddy? 2 whole weeks, I said, handing her a thermos. What about the mean lady? She can babysit the garage, I said, smiling. As we pulled out of the driveway, the padlocked garage door gleamed behind us, reflecting the morning sun. Inside, a luxury SUV waited in silence, a symbol of every petty rule Brenda had ever twisted. And as our truck disappeared down the road toward the mountains, I had no idea that the next 14 days would turn our quiet suburb into the most talked-about neighborhood in the county. 3 days into our camping trip, the world was nothing but pine air, quiet water, and my daughter's laughter. I could almost forget that somewhere back in Willow Creek, a BMW sat locked in my garage like a trophy. Almost. We were roasting marshmallows by the lake when my satellite phone buzzed. Only one person had the number, Tom. I answered. Please tell me you're just checking in. He laughed. Wish I was. Your favorite treasurer tried to break into your garage at 6 a.m. with a crowbar. I stared at the calm lake. You're kidding. Brother, I never kid before coffee. She said she heard strange noises and was checking for safety concerns. I've got it on camera. I thanked him, tried to sound calm for Emma's sake, and hung up. Brenda breaking in wasn't shocking. It was predictable. Narcissists can't stand silence. They need someone to react. By day 5, Tom had more updates. She'd hired a locksmith, claimed it was an HOA inspection, and when the locksmith asked for proof, she threatened to report him for non-compliance. He left. Every move she made was being captured by Tom's cameras and stored in cloud backup. I didn't even have to lift a finger. The next evening, Mrs. Chen sent me a text through Tom. She's been patrolling the street at night with a flashlight. Don't worry, we're documenting everything. I smiled at the irony. Brenda's own community watch now watching her. Emma was learning how to skip stones. She threw one that bounced 3 times before sinking. Daddy, did I do it right? Perfect, I said. And it was perfect. For the first time in months, I wasn't angry. I was patient. Justice, like electricity, works best when you let the current find its path. Day 7. Another buzz on the satellite phone. Tom again, voice low and gleeful. She called in an electrical inspector, said your garage wiring was hazardous. I laughed so loud, a bird flew from a nearby tree. The inspector recognized your name. Told her filing false emergency reports is a misdemeanor. She backed off after he told her he's filing an incident report of his own. Each call from Tom was a gift. Each blunder from Brenda another nail in her own complaint file. Then came day 9. The call this time wasn't laughter. It was chaos. She hired someone, Tom said. Guy showed up with bolt cutters saying he was there on HOA orders. No ID, no permit. I confronted him, called the cops. Officer Martinez caught him mid-cut. I closed my eyes, felt the mountain wind against my face. Please tell me you got that recorded. Every second. The guy flipped immediately, gave her name, showed the cash she paid him. It was like watching someone wire their own self-destruct switch. I told Tom to keep everything organized and safe. 2 days later, the biggest shock yet, a message from Sarah Mitchell, our neighbor who runs the community Facebook page. Emergency, news vans at Brenda's house. Police everywhere. I climbed to a ridge for signal. Sarah, slow down. They're arresting her husband at city planning, some ethics thing. State investigators, cameras, everything. They raided her home office too. I felt my knees go light. For what? They found emails, property manipulation, fake fines, using HOA pressure to force home sales. It's a whole operation. I looked at the horizon, miles of mountains, endless sky, and exhaled. All I'd wanted was my garage back. Somehow, we'd uncovered organized fraud. That night by the campfire, Emma leaned against my shoulder. "Daddy, are we going home soon?" "In a few days. Is the mean lady gone?" "She's being dealt with." Emma nodded solemnly, as if justice was just another bedtime story that always ended right. By day 12, the story had exploded. Tom sent me photos, news trucks outside Brenda's mansion, police tape across her front door, neighbors standing in clusters whispering. Someone even made a meme, her BMW behind my garage door with the caption, "When HOA rules meet property law." The voicemail inbox on my phone filled up even in the mountains. Brenda had somehow found the number and was leaving messages that shifted from fury to begging. "Jake, please, this has gone too far. Just open the garage, I'll make it right." Then another, "You don't understand. They're taking everything. Please, just talk to me." I didn't listen to the rest. Some lessons only stick when you let silence finish the lecture. On the final morning of our trip, Emma caught her first trout. She held it proudly before releasing it back into the lake. "See, Daddy? You can catch it, but you don't have to keep it." I smiled at the metaphor I didn't teach her. "Exactly right, kiddo, because that's what this was, catch and release." I hadn't trapped Brenda for revenge. I'd simply stopped her long enough for truth to surface. When we packed up the truck, I checked messages one last time. Derek's voicemail played over the static. "Jake, you're officially part of an active state investigation. They used your documentation as evidence. When you're back, the Attorney General's office wants an interview. You did it, man. You exposed them." For a second, I just sat there, engine idling, listening to the quiet forest. 2 weeks earlier, I was the tired electrician who just wanted peace in his garage. Now, I was coming home to headlines. As we drove down the mountain road, the valley spread below us, glittering with morning light. Emma sang off key with the radio, and I thought about the locked BMW waiting back home, a monument to arrogance, still sitting in the dark. When we pulled into Willow Creek the next afternoon, I could see the chaos from a mile away. Police tape fluttered near Brenda's driveway. Reporters stood under umbrellas, cameras trained on her front lawn. Neighbors gathered in little clusters watching. Tom was waiting at my curb, coffee in one hand, grin wide. "Welcome back, hero. Hope you're ready for local fame." What happened? They found everything. Fake fines, forged contracts, even emails showing her husband feeding her insider info from city planning. "They're calling it the biggest HOA corruption case in county history." I blinked. "And the BMW?" He nodded toward my garage.
"Still there."
"Detective says not to touch it until they finish photographing everything." "It's officially evidence now." Inside the garage, dust coated the BMW's hood. 2 weeks without air conditioning had done a number on the leather seats. Brenda's pride was turning into mildew. Emma peeked in. "It's still there." "For now," I said. Neighbors started crossing the street one by one. Mrs. Chen handed me a small folder. "These are copies of every notice she ever sent me. The investigators said my documentation matched the timeline perfectly." Sarah arrived next, laptop in hand. "I've been helping the news verify dates. They're crediting you for starting the investigation." I didn't feel like a hero. Mostly I felt tired, but the good kind, the way you feel after finishing a long job without cutting corners. Tom clapped me on the back. "You should see the comments online. People are calling you Garage Guy. Someone made fan art." I laughed until it hurt. As the sun went down, police finally towed the BMW away. The sound of the winch tightening, metal shifting, was the most satisfying music I'd ever heard. Emma stood beside me, holding my hand. "Is it over, Daddy?" "Almost." "What happens to her?" "She'll have to answer for what she did. But we don't have to hate her. We just had to stop her." She nodded thoughtfully. "Then can we finish my treehouse?" "Tomorrow morning." The garage door closed behind us with that familiar, comforting rumble. For the first time in weeks, the air smelled like sawdust again instead of perfume. And as I turned off the lights, I realized something. all I'd wanted was to use my own garage. But sometimes defending a small space uncovers a much bigger truth. 6 months later, Willow Creek Estates didn't look the same. The lawns still shone emerald, the sidewalks were still spotless, but something deeper had changed. The air felt lighter, like a window finally opened after a long winter. Brenda and her husband had both pled guilty. She got 18 months in a minimum security facility and a lifetime ban from HOA positions. Her husband lost his city planning job and his pension. The house that once loomed over the cul-de-sac went up for auction. I didn't attend. Watching the moving truck carry out the last of her designer furniture was closure enough. What mattered now was what we built afterward. The first thing the neighborhood did was elect a brand new board. Tom became president, Mrs. Chen secretary, Sarah communications lead. They asked me to join, but I said no. I wanted to keep my weekends free for Emma and our projects. Still, I helped them set up a rule every HOA should have: full transparency. Every budget, every fine, every maintenance contract posted online for anyone to read. No secrets, no power trips. Within weeks, the tension that had gripped our street melted. Neighbors who hadn't spoken in years started chatting over hedges again. Mrs. Chen's wind chimes rang freely on her porch. Tom's work truck sat proudly in his driveway, not hiding on the curb. My garage finally looked like a workshop again. The BMW smell was gone, replaced by sawdust, varnish, and Emma's laughter. Together, we finished the treehouse we'd started before all the chaos. The platform sat 18 inches farther back than before, just because we could. Emma called it extra justice. One evening, as we were tightening the last screw, she looked at me upside down from the rope ladder. "Daddy, are you proud of us?" "Very, you helped more than you know," she grinned. "Then our first treehouse rule is no mean people allowed." Agreed. We painted that rule on a wooden sign and nailed it above the doorway. A week later, the county held a press conference announcing the results of the investigation. 14 people across 6 HOAs were charged with fraud and conspiracy. The state attorney general thanked a homeowner who documented persistent harassment and exposed systemic corruption. They didn't say my name, but I didn't need them to. My neighbors already knew. That night, Sarah convinced me to do an interview for her new YouTube channel, HOA Accountability Network. She wanted a positive story, how a working-class dad used patience and paperwork instead of anger. I sat in my backyard under string lights while she set up the camera. "So, Jake," she asked, "what's the biggest lesson from all this?" I thought for a moment. That power only works when people stay quiet. The second you document, ask questions, and stand your ground, bullies lose their control. Sometimes you don't need to fight, you just need to flip the light switch and let everyone see what's been hiding in the dark. The clip went viral, not because of drama, but because people recognized themselves in it. The quiet worker tired of being pushed around. Comments poured in from homeowners all over the country. "You gave me courage to face my HOA. I'm printing my deed tomorrow," Derek called a few days later. "Congratulations, garage guy, you're internet famous." I laughed. "Is that what they're calling me?" "Yep, also your civil case settled. Insurance payout, legal fees, the works. Good news?" "Great news. 12 grand after everything's cleared." I didn't keep a cent. I donated the money to start the Willow Creek Property Rights Fund. Derek volunteered pro bono hours. Mrs. Chen handled senior outreach, and Tom helped with tech. Any homeowner who got hit with unfair HOA fines could call and get free advice. 3 families used it in the first month. One woman cried when she realized she didn't have to sell her house. That was better than any paycheck. By spring, the neighborhood had turned our ordeal into tradition. On the anniversary of Brenda's BMW incident, we hosted a community barbecue called Garage Door Day. Everyone brought food, kids drew chalk art on the street. And at sunset, we projected a movie on the side of my garage. The Great Escape, of course. When the credits rolled, Tom raised a toast. To boundaries, knowing where they start, and defending them when someone crosses. Laughter echoed through the cul-de-sac. Even the new residents, who'd only heard rumors of the garage story, clapped along. Later that night, when the crowd thinned and the fire pit glowed low, Mrs. Chen sat beside me. "Funny thing about justice," she said. "It never comes fast, but it always comes full circle." I nodded, watching sparks drift into the dark. "You were right all along. Documentation beats confrontation." She smiled. "You'd make a good teacher." Maybe she was right. A week later, Derek invited me to speak at a homeowner workshop downtown. The room was full of people with stories like mine, bullied by small-time power junkies hiding behind rules. I told them the same thing I tell everyone now: keep calm, record everything, and never underestimate what one locked garage can expose. Afterward, a young couple came up. The wife said quietly, "We were going to move. After hearing you, we're staying. We're fighting back." That hit harder than any applause. A few months later, Emma and I were grilling in the backyard when she pointed toward the treehouse. "Daddy, can we add a slide?" "Sure, if you help paint it." She handed me a brush dripping with blue paint. "Second rule of the treehouse: everyone has to share snacks." "Good rule," I said. We painted together until the sun dipped below the rooftops. The neighborhood lights flickered on one by one. Each house a quiet story of people who'd stopped being afraid of their own HOA. As I packed up the tools, I caught sight of my reflection in the garage window. The same old garage door, same scuffed floor, but now it stood for something bigger. A reminder that small acts of courage ripple outward. Emma tugged my sleeve. "Can we go camping again this summer?" "Absolutely, but this time no drama, just fishing and s'mores." She smiled. "And no mean people allowed." Exactly. When she went inside, I lingered a moment longer, listening to the faint hum of crickets and distant laughter. The kind of peaceful sound you only notice when the noise of bullies is finally gone. I hit the garage remote. The door lowered with that familiar mechanical rumble, steady, final, perfect. And for anyone watching this story on YouTube right now, remember, sometimes defending the smallest thing, a garage, a yard, a little bit of dignity, can spark change that reaches farther than you'd ever expect. So if you've ever dealt with a petty authority, or just need proof that fairness still exists, tap subscribe and stay tuned. Next week, I'll tell you about the time a city inspector tried to condemn someone's house for having too many books, and how one librarian turned the law back on them. Because karma doesn't take vacations. It just waits for the right moment to knock on the door.